Hello, good morning. I'm so happy to be here with you for a second time this week. And I am very excited because I love returning to the basics. My name is my name is Michelle Wadleigh. I am Reverend Michelle Wadleigh, the founding director of the Center for Spiritual Living in, we started in Montclair, went to West Orange, we were in Caldwell, now we're virtual. And I've been playing with Reverend Robert and his team of fantastic people in this radio station for a few months now, just having a grand old time. So I'm here today as part of the Science of Mind lecture series. And since I was having on vacation this month in my own life, I missed doing the basics in my community. So I'm so excited to be here bringing you one piece of the basics that is a way for that many communities around the world, science of mind communities, begin the year every year in renewing and looking once again back at the basics. So I'm going to do it. I only have a certain amount of time. I want to make this time valuable. So what I'm going to tell you to do, I recommend you go and get your textbooks right now. Run and get them. So because I'm going to give you the page numbers of everything that I speak to you about. And for the chapter that I'm covering, which is how to use it, I will be reading directly from the textbook. So I'm glad to be here with you this morning. And I'm going to do what we do. And I'm going to start with an opening treatment or an invocation, as some might call it, just to get us plugged in and tuned up, okay? Oh, there is a power and a presence and a love. It is grand. It is glorious. It is everywhere present, always available. It is beautiful and stunning and sacred. And it lives by means of me, my consciousness, my life. And as I speak this word for myself, I do for each individual listening now or listening later. I declare that the beauty of this moment is inherent, and that the more I focus on this beauty, the more the beauty grows within me. Very simply, I know that the goodness and the grace of God is forever expanding as my consciousness. I declare this for myself and every listener, and I'm grateful for the word and for the law that makes us so. So I surrender this, I allow it to be so, and so it is. Thank you. Thank you for participating with me with that. So what I want to do is I want to draw a thread. I'm not going to reiterate what all of my predecessors of the past 3 weeks have, but I'm going to just touch base with you just a tad, and so we can, like I said, draw a thread through. On page 27 in the textbook, the thing itself, it said universal principles are never respecters of persons. The universe has no favorites. That is a very confusing and something that people struggle with. And we struggle with that because we come from the place of thinking that we have judgmental minds, and we think in terms of right and wrong and good and bad. So we think if I'm good, I receive more. And the truth is, the science of mind and metaphysics does not work that way. So when it says that universal principles are never respecters of persons, it's because once you understand principle, and once you fully understand that the law is responding to your consciousness, you know that the law is not criticizing you or judging you whether or not you're good or bad, or whether you deserve. So that's it's a good piece of news. It's good news, actually, yet it's not necessarily one to easily swallow up front. On page 28, it says, since some people have been healed through prayer, while others have not, the answer is not that God has responded to some and not to others, but that some have responded to God more than others. Okay. You'll find, and if you've been listening for the past 3 weeks, the word embodiment is a big thing in science of mind. Because when we are seeking for change and transformation, we must embody those ideas to the degree of feeling them at a cellular level. And embodying them, okay, means that we activate that law and we draw to us the energetics necessary to have it be revealed in our lives. So when we choose to take ownership for this whole idea, and then responsibility for properly or rightly using the law, we activate it more in our life. So again, God does not play favorites. We simply must get into right relationship, right alignment, syncing up, so to speak, with the one. Okay, going through this quite fast. On page 30, since this is true, it follows that we cannot say that one thought is creative while another is not. We must say that all thought is creative according to the nature, impulse, emotion, or conviction behind the thought. There's an old song. It was more like a dirge, and I heard it for years in the first community I belonged to. All thoughts, all thoughts are prayers. There is never a time when we are not praying. Every thought we think, every judgment we make, every time we ponder, we are activating the law. That's a little weighty for some, but when you realize it for what it is, you just learn to monitor this thinking thing that we activate, that we use and that we use to activate the law with greater respect. Okay, that's all we're doing in the first chapter. The way it works on page 35, there is a universal mind, spirit, intelligence that is the origin of everything. It is first cause, it is God. This universal life and energy finds an outlet in and through all that is energized and through everything that lives. There is one life back of everything that lives. There is one energy back of all that is energized. This energy is in everything. There is one spirit back of all expression. This is the meaning of the mystical saying, in him we live and move and have our being. It might appear that we're thinking teaching, and there are a lot points to that. But as you begin to study and you go deep with this study, I believe that the natural path for all of us is to come to the realization that it is our beingness that attracts. It is our beingness. So it is not just, and it can never be just surface. It can never be, I am rich, I am rich, I am rich. Not that mental calisthenic, calisthenics, you know what I mean, exercise. That is from the conscious part of the mind that's not steeped from deep within, will go not go very far. What we want to do is recognize I am one with the law that activates within me the consciousness of prosperity. I live that, I breathe that, I am that, and I act from that place. That's different. I've now taken it deeper. So that's the difference between just trying to think your way into whatever it is you want. On page 37 of the way it works, our belief sets the limit to our demonstration of a principle which of itself is without limits. You and I set the law is constantly moving, just like a river that's constantly flowing. And at some point, you and I choose to dip into that river. We might dip into the river to swim or to fish or to go canoeing. So we can each come to that river with a different intention. But the river itself is constant, the law itself is constant. But our recognition that the river is there, that we have to approach it with some respect because it's a river, The law is the same way. We must bring our fullness to it. Okay? Okay. What it does, all this stuff is so exciting. I hope it's exciting to you. It's exciting to me. On page 40, in what it does, we should approach the study of the science rationally, never expecting to derive any benefits from it that its principle does not contain. We don't show up. This is the example I always give because we are utilizing, albeit them soft scientific science, we are using science. I will never be 5'10" and blonde with brown eyes. So I learned to recognize within my belief system and how I align with the law what is possible. And I don't set myself up to expect something that's not possible. So then I am moving in accord with the principle that makes all of this possible. So the thing itself, the all that is, always avails itself and avails itself through me. It avails itself through my consciousness, through my spoken word, through you, through your spoken word. And it demonstrates according to my belief system, according to my acceptance and my allowance. Okay, we're there together? I'm going to jump because I have less time than I thought, and I have so much because I was excited. The universe is impersonal. It gives to alike to all. It is no respective. It is not respective of persons. Excuse me. It values each alike. Its nature is to impart, ours to receive. Yes, I'm repeating this one again because it is a real stopping point for a lot of individuals. The fact that the universe is impersonal, I'm telling you, is truly good news. Because you are not worthy of good because you've done good. You are worthy of good because your divine birthright is all that is under the sun. And so when we get, as Emerson would say, our bloated nothingness out of the way, and we simply allow ourselves to be elevated in our consciousness, elevated in our thinking, we prepare ourselves, we totally prepare ourselves to walk in the consciousness, to walk in it. At some point, if we have practiced enough and steeped ourselves enough, we realize that we don't have to stop to treat for individual things all the time. We become the treatment. The Reverend Dr. Tom Johnson, who is a beloved minister and author of some documents, I don't remember the name of his books, he used to say, the reason to treat is to not have to treat. Now, as a very young metaphysician or young science of mind student, I didn't understand that. But as the years passed, I did learn to understand it. Because what it does, it changes the one praying. Okay? Treatment and prayer changes the one praying. Aligning with principle changes the one that is opening to it. And so I have a t-shirt a friend of mine created for me as something I used to say. I become a walking, talking prayer zone. Because when I have my consciousness on, when I'm in right alignment, when I'm in right relationship with universal law and principle, then I am always thinking, acting, being, pondering in a way that is responsibly creative, not just creative, because it's always creative, but it's responsibly creative. Okay, let me go to how to use it. Oh my God. This is the way I open many Sunday celebrations, even when I speak at another community. As above, so below. And if you're home, hopefully you're saying this with me. As above, so below, as within, so without. On earth as it is in heaven. Earth means form, right? Heaven means consciousness. So, as above, so below, as within, as without, on earth as it is in heaven. Okay. He says, one of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. As a matter of fact, we only know as much as we can prove by actual demonstration. That which we cannot prove may or may not be true, but that which we can prove certainly must be and is the truth. And I'm here to tell you that early in my years in Science and Mind, and I told this story on my Rev Jersey Girl show when I first opened. Not a popular metaphor, but I didn't have a pot to piss in. I I had a car that broke down and didn't have the money for a new car. I didn't have a job. And then in the middle of all that, found myself pregnant with my third son. And I was a newly single mom with another son home. So I have to tell you, this teaching saved my life. And I've proven it because I trusted the people who were teaching me. I trusted the practitioners. I trusted my minister teacher. And I dug into the textbook. And I took what Ernest Holmes was teaching very literally. And I lifted myself one treatment at a time, one moment at a time. And then remember, a moment in human time could be years. We're not, it's all very relative, right? Now is now is a moment, now is a second, now is an hour. It's that now is a very objective idea. But I lifted myself and I learned how to be in the teaching to the degree of then rising up, becoming a practitioner, becoming a minister, founding a center, healthfully raising three, my eldest son was out of the house already, but my other two sons, and having a community that's been healthy for 18 years. So this is not a theory to me. And I have proven it, and you can too. So if I say nothing else, I want to make sure that that piece of that you can too is really in there. He goes on to say, of course, the theory of any scientific principle goes beyond its application at any given stage of the unfoldment of that principle and the evolution of its accomplishments. If this were not true, there would be no progress in any science. The sciences are objectively real to us only insofar as we demonstrate them. And until demonstrated, they are suppositional so far as practical results are concerned. It just means learn, practice, practice, practice. Learn, practice, practice, practice. Further on, by the way, this is on page 51 of the textbook. A little further down, it says, its apparent intangibility is lessened whenever and wherever anyone demonstrates the supremacy of spiritual thought force over apparent material resistance. I implore you to consider, oh my God, it's so much, it's so late. I implore you to consider, if you don't know how to treat yet, using a practitioner, just buy one of Ernest Holmes' books. And especially the thing itself, the way it works, his creative law or creative law and success, or whatever the name of that is, and just repeat those treatments over and over and over again, because that is where you will activate the law inside of your body. I'm going to read something else. I'm going to read the single most famous piece that has ever been read um, um, in the Science of Mind textbook. Every minister loves to read this, so just hang in there with me because it sounds like a tongue twister. Hence it follows, you know this, many of you know this is on page 52. Hence it follows that if we believe that it will not work, it really works by appearing to not work. When we believe that it cannot and will not, then, according to the principle, it does not. But when it does not, it still does. Only it does according to our belief that it will not. This is our own punishment through the law of cause and effect. We do not enter in because of our doubts and fears. It is not a punishment imposed upon us by the Spirit of God, but an automatic result of failing constructively to use the law of God. What? Let me tie this up. Our thoughts are our mold. We create our reality by the things we consistently ponder upon. I say consistently because we would never want to be fearful of one-off thoughts, just quick one-offs. We don't want to be fearful of that. If those thoughts are repeated and held on, and if we entertain them with fear, fear activates because it's a feeling, will activate that law in the direction that we don't want it. I teach in my center that there are two ways of being in choice through collusion or collaboration. We can collude with negativity or collaborate with what's possible. You must see that every moment, everything that's in front of you, that's laid before you, there is a choice that you get to make. And in making that choice, you find life enhancing principles activated in you, or you find life limiting principles activated within you. This is not a teaching for the faint of heart. This is not a Sunday only teaching. We have to uh, learn, return to, activate, return to, activate, and do that over and over again because prayer and treatment changes the one who's praying, who's treating. What we ultimately want is to walk gently in that consciousness of possibility, to find within us the belief that life is working for us on our behalf. That is what we want to have happen. Now, I want to say to you, if you would like to ask a question, you have the ability today to come on and be live on the show, actually, and ask a question of anything that I've spoken about so far, or maybe something else in the chapter. So I'm hoping that somebody out there who's listening will decide to come in and play with me and ask a question. So I know that they are putting a link in the show somewhere. To be honest with you, I don't know how it works, but I know that Reverend Robert knows because this is he's the genius here. So while you're reaching for your textbooks or getting your questions ready, I'll continue with a little bit more. Oh, there you go. There is the link to participate. On page 54, it says a practitioner uses thought definitely and for specific purposes. And the more definitely he uses the law, the more directly will it respond to him. So when I teach that there are four ways that we use the law. Now remember, the law is the river that flows. We are called to respect the river because we could potentially be harmed in that river. I'm not really suggesting that, but we could be. because if we can't swim, we could be carried away with it. The four ways you want to use the law is responsibly. Speak words responsibly. Speak words for yourself. You and I are not here to try and change the world. We're here to change how we see the world. And through that, we allow the world and we allow the people that we know and the people that we love to just be who they're being. Okay? But when you and I change the way we see things, what we see changes. I, I know it's like all these things are memes now, but they weren't always. The science of mind has been teaching this very directly for a long time. So let me repeat that. When we change how we see the world, what we see does change. There is a correlation between that. One of the single most difficult things for us as humans is to have patience in speaking the word and then trusting. Often, we think if we don't see a result immediately, we think it hasn't worked. And then we allow our doubt and fear to come in. Now, if you're sick, you're ill, you're in pain, you're divorcing, and life's challenges are in your face, it's hard. Come on, it's hard. But the master practitioner, and I don't mean that as a licensed practitioner, the master practitioner of this teaching will exercise themselves to look past the evidence of fear, of doubt, of pain, of suffering, and continue to look through it until they can see the perfection of what it is they want demonstrated. That is a master level way of showing up. Not simple. It is not simple. And for ministers and practitioners who do this all the time, it is not simple for even for us to sit with somebody in pain, even emotional pain, and to not want to go in and fix them and coddle them. But our training says I must be the one standing in principle so that this individual can align with me. You know, it's coherence. I want to be the grounded place. And so when you and I begin to apply this law, then we become more grounded and at peace and at ease. And we want to stand there long enough that others can come in and then kind of be in birds of a feather. That we move together synchronized, like murmuration of birds, which is such a beautiful thing to see. Um, but there is a spiritual gestation period between the time that you speak your word and the time something shows up. It's just natural. Holmes speaks to this on page 57. He says, the truth is instantaneous in its demonstration, taking only such time in its unfoldment as inherent in the law of a logical and sequential evolution. It's been very, it has been very confusing for many. The question always comes, do I treat once or do I treat over and over again? He says here very clearly, we treat until we demonstrate. And yet, if I don't want to hold on to it, what do? I have a solution. You treat until you experience a shift in consciousness. You treat until you have a shift in consciousness. Okay, I hear we have a question coming in. So I guess it's going to be shown to me, or someone, can oneness faith spread like a virus of the mind? Can one, can I see the question again, Reverend Robert? Can oneness faith spread like a virus of the mind? Wayne, I'm going to say to you that it already has. I'm going to say to you that the idea of oneness and possibility has already, in a very subtle yet powerful way, helped to balance the scales of all the negativity of life. I don't know if you remember, it was the late 70s, I guess, early 80s. There were a time we were afraid of, you know, the bomb being dropped. And I can remember having gatherings in my home, consciousness raising, gatherings, so that we would, put out positive energy. Right? That was the way we thought at the time. I believe in my heart and soul that if it wasn't for metaphysicians, Buddhists, and all the prayers for peace from all sects, all the different sects, that we would not be even experiencing the kind of peace we currently are. I believe, as much as we have seen some of the ugly, as we see violence, that we have already done our work to help to lift the consciousness of the planet, and our work is not done. But there is this thing, and until another question comes in, I'm going to jump out of the textbook for a moment. Because sometimes we treat for change and transformation, and then what happens is all hell breaks loose. And suddenly there is the appearance of things breaking, there is the appearance of something not working. It's very painful when it happens. But there's a very old metaphysical reality or concept that I want to teach, and it's called chemicalization. The earliest reference that I saw of it was in a book called Concordance by I don't know, I can't remember. I can't remember right now. An old metaphysical book. So what that means is when you and I stand in a place and we declare, "I am peace itself," and that's what we treat for, and that's what we hold on to. That anything unlike it must go. And when it goes, sometimes it goes with a lot of chaos, a lot of confusion, and a lot of upset. A good metaphysical teacher, though, will remind their students immediately and early on that chaos, the appearance of chaos, is the shedding of the things that do not complement the thing you're treating for. So it's not that the law is not working, because that's what someone will say. It's not working. The law is not working. The stuff doesn't work. No, you are shedding the weight of the ideas, of the toxicity, of the limitations. That's what's happening. You're shedding that. And so when you shed that, there has this look of confusion. But in truth, that's because you are gently moving into this place of alignment to be in right relationship with the divine, because the way we use it is in right relationship. We must be in alignment. We must be in alignment in order to experience the change and the transformation. Individuality and universality in regard to oneness. Yes. Yeah. In order to speak about, thank you, great question, and great question, Wayne, too, before, thank you. In order to speak about individuality, and put it back up again, Robert, if you would, individuality and universality in regard to oneness, right? It is the difference between the relative and the absolute. The absolute is the all that is. It's there that we are experiencing oneness, where I don't even have to know who you are, but I know you because I am you. That exists in the oneness of all things, the oneness that is the birthplace of everything. but that absolute must at some point demonstrate. So I'll do something for you real quick that will help this. You take the science of mind symbol and think of yourself you take the science of mind symbol and superimpose it on top of yourself. And you open your arms up wide, and what is all around and what you are available to is the absolute. The absolute, the all that is, the undifferentiated stuff that is just seeking expression. And then what happens is you and I speak our word. And when we speak our word, it comes in through as us, through our consciousness, and it demonstrates. So the oneness exists in the absolute all that is. But when it starts to become relative, that is where we move into human form and human measurement and human separation. So it is critical that we are aware that the absolute and the relative exist simultaneously, like two sides of a seed pod, right? And that absolute is unchangeable principle of all that is. But the relative is when we are incarnated, we are often incarnated with prejudices already. We are incarnated with trauma. We are incarnated and then into a life that has in it the human effect. And so it is difficult to shake off that humanity to realign with the oneness and the absolute, but that's the journey. A good practitioner is one who stands in that state and views the world around, but with this being unshakable. This is not easy. This is a masterful teaching. We are called to be more in the greatest way possible. To expect ourselves to do it expertly all the time is unreasonable. We're always going to have to come back and return. My time is up with you here today. I know next week, I think it is the soon to be Reverend Rochelle, who will be with us. Yep, McCurry, practitioner now and soon to be minister. I know she's in Holmes Institute for Ministerial Studies. It'll be fun to have her as a colleague. And I'll be here again with you next week on Jersey Girl Wisdom on Thursday. Thank you for indulging me in this very passionate conversation. As you can see, I get very excited about the very basics. And I hope you find me next week. I am Rev Jersey Girl. Bless you. Thank you. And if you have any questions, you can email me directly. I think Reverend Bob has my email address, which is revjerseygirl@gmail.com. Be well, be happy, and be brilliant because you are. Thank you. Oh, I think Reverend Robert has something for us. Am I incorrect? Thank you. I got a note. Listen, I don't know about the rest of you all, but I always do what I ask other people to do. And I did it this week. Not only have I given donations to this beautiful organization, but I have signed up to give a monthly donation. It might be small, but it's consistent. And even if every one of us listening gave something small every month or every week, or something large every month or every week, this show could go to not just this show, but the whole radio station could go to the next level. So please dip in your pockets, show them with because we vote with our dollars. Vote with your dollars. Show them your love. Show them your money. Now I'm complete. Be well. Thank you.
Check it out. Thursdays, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, noon Eastern. A healthy dose of Jersey Girl wisdom. live with Rev Jersey Girl. Sponsored by New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.